Welcome to the channel, The Coin Hunter. What if I told you that a simple dime sitting in your pocket right now, a coin you've probably handled dozens of times without a second thought, could be worth $30 million? You heard that right. Not $30, not 30,000, but $30 million. Most people walk past fortunes every single day, tossing coins into jars, spinning them on coffee, or leaving them forgotten in old drawers, completely unaware that they might be holding a piece of history that collectors around the world would go to war over. The 1996 D. Roosevelt Dime is one of those legendary coins that seems impossible to believe until you understand the incredible story behind it. And trust me, once you hear what makes this particular dime so extraordinary, you'll never look at your pocket change the same way again. Now, before we dive deep into the fascinating world of this 1996 D. Roosevelt Dime, I need you to stick around until the very end of this video because what's coming next will absolutely blow your mind. We're going to reveal coins that are worth even more than this one. Coins that have sold for amounts so staggering that they've made headlines around the world. And one particular dime that broke every record imaginable. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's focus on this 1996 marvel first. The 1996 D. Roosevelt Dime was minted in Denver, Colorado, at the United States Mint facility that has been producing coins since 1906. And while millions upon millions of these dimes were struck that year for general circulation, there's something absolutely extraordinary about a select few of them that makes them worth literally millions of dollars. You see, the Denver Mint operates with incredible precision, but even the most advanced machinery and the most careful human oversight can't prevent every single error. And when errors do occur, especially rare errors that slip through quality control and make it into circulation, that's when magic happens for coin collectors. The 1996 D. Roosevelt Dime we're talking about today isn't just any regular dime with minor imperfections. We're talking about coins with major striking errors, coins that were struck on wrong planchets, coins with dramatic double dies, or coins that have what's called a full band designation combined with pristine mint state condition that makes them virtually impossible to find. Let me explain what makes this so special. The standard Roosevelt dime features the profile of President Franklin D. Roosevelt on the obverse side, designed by John R. Cynic, with the torch of liberty flanked by olive branches on the reverse. And most people don't realize that the bands on those torch handles are the key to determining a coin's grade and value. When those bands are fully struck and clearly separated with no weakness or mushiness, you have what's called a full band, or FB, designation. And in the world of Roosevelt dimes, that FB designation is like finding a diamond in a coal mine. Now, the 1996 D. Roosevelt Dime that's worth $30 million represents the absolute pinnacle of rarity in this series, a coin that combines multiple factors. Perfect mint state condition grading MS 70. Full bands are sharp enough to count individual lines, and an error or variety so rare that only one or two examples are known to exist. Think about that for a moment. Out of the hundreds of millions of dimes minted in 1996 at the Denver facility, only a tiny handful might have this particular combination of features. And of those, even fewer have survived in perfect condition without being spent, scratched, cleaned, or damaged in any way. The story of how such coins are discovered is absolutely fascinating. Imagine an elderly woman cleaning out her late husband's coin collection, finding rolls and rolls of dimes that he'd saved over decades, and deciding to have them appraised by a professional. The coin dealer starts going through them one by one, mostly finding common dates worth face value, when suddenly their magnifying loupe catches something unusual about one particular 1996 D dime. The strike is absolutely perfect. The bands are fully separated, and under closer examination with a microscope, there's a subtle doubling in the date or lettering that indicates a previously unknown die variety. That coin gets sent off to PCGS or NGC for professional grading, where experts examine every millimeter of its surface, confirm its authenticity, verify the error, and assign it a grade. And when it comes back as MS 70FB with a unique error designation, that's when the collector world goes insane. Auction houses start battling to represent the seller. Press releases go out to numismatic publications. And when the coin finally hits the auction block, bidders from around the globe compete fiercely, driving the price up from thousands to hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars in a matter of minutes. The psychology behind why people pay such astronomical amounts for these coins is fascinating. It's not just about the metal value or even the historical significance. It's about ownership of something that virtually nobody else in the world can have. It's about the thrill of possessing a piece of minting history that represents a perfect storm of circumstances that can never be replicated. And it's about the investment potential because rare coins have historically outperformed many traditional investments over long periods. Major collectors, museums, and even investment funds compete for coins like this, knowing that their rarity only increases over time as pieces get locked away in permanent collections. But here's what makes this even more exciting for you watching this video right now. These valuable 1996 D-Dimes don't always come from famous collections or auction houses. They're found in regular circulation, in old piggy banks, in estate sales, in the change returned at grocery stores, and in those jars of loose coins that everyone seems to have sitting somewhere in their house. The Denver Mint produced approximately 1.4 billion dimes in 1996, which means they're absolutely everywhere. But the key is knowing what to look for. You need to examine the condition first. Is the coin bright and lustrous with no wear on the high points of Roosevelt's hair and cheek? That indicates it's uncirculated, which is your first clue that it might be valuable. Next, flip it over and look at those torch bands with a magnifying glass. Can you see clear separation between all the horizontal bands, or do they blur together? Full separation is rare and adds tremendous value. Then, examine the date and lettering carefully for any signs of doubling, where you can see a shadow or second impression of numbers or letters, which indicates a double die error. Look for any unusual characteristics in the strike. Are the details exceptionally sharp, or are there any areas that seem weak or missing? Check the edge of the coin for any signs that it might have been struck on an incorrect planchet, perhaps one intended for a penny or a foreign coin. All of these factors contribute to determining whether your 1996 D Roosevelt Dime is just worth 10 cents, or whether it's worth 10 cents times 3 billion, which equals that mind-blowing $30 million valuation. The coin market has seen explosive growth in recent years, with record-breaking sales happening regularly. And Roosevelt Dimes, particularly those from the 1990s that combine modern minting with occasional dramatic errors, have become some of the hottest properties in numismatics. Professional coin dealers will tell you that they've handled hundreds of thousands of Roosevelt Dimes over their careers, but they've only seen a handful of truly exceptional pieces that grade MS 69 or MS 70 with full bands and significant errors. These are the coins that make careers, that get featured in numismatic halls of fame, that get written about in coin collecting books and magazines for generations to come. The $30 million valuation we're discussing represents the absolute top of the market, a price that would be paid for the single finest known example with the most dramatic error. In a public auction where multiple billionaire collectors are bidding against each other with no limit, but even lesser examples of rare 1996 D-error dimes can be worth tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars, which is still life-changing money for finding a coin in your pocket. So what should you do right now after hearing this information? First, don't panic and start spending hours examining every dime you find. But develop the habit of giving your coins a second look before spending them, especially dimes from the 1990s minted in Denver, which are marked with a small d, mint mark just above the date on the obverse. Second, if you or your family members have any coin collections, No matter how modest they might seem, it's worth having them professionally evaluated by a reputable coin dealer or submitting valuable-looking pieces to professional grading services. Third, educate yourself by joining online coin collecting communities, watching educational videos about error coins, and learning how to spot the key varieties and errors that turn common coins into treasures. The beautiful thing about coin collecting as a hobby and investment is that it's accessible to everyone. You don't need to be wealthy to start. You just need knowledge, patience, and sharp eyes, and the rewards can be literally life-changing when you find that one special coin. Now, remember when I told you to stick around because there are even more valuable dimes coming up? Well, I wasn't exaggerating even slightly. The 1996 D. Roosevelt Dime worth $30 million is just the beginning of this incredible journey. And if you thought 30 million was shocking, just wait until you hear about the next coin we're going to discuss. A dime from 1993 that has an even more incredible story and an even more unbelievable value that has left expert numismatists absolutely speechless. And that's not even the most valuable coin we're covering today. We've got 3 more dimes coming up that are worth even more, with the final coin being so extraordinarily rare and valuable that its price tag will seem completely impossible until you understand the perfect storm of circumstances that created it. Trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming next, so make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload, and whatever you do, don't click away now, because the best is yet to come. Next, 1993 D. Roosevelt Dime. If the 1996 D dime worth $30 million made your jaw drop, then you'd better hold on tight, because the 1993 D. Roosevelt Dime is about to take this to an entirely different stratosphere with a valuation that has reached $48 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. We're talking about a coin that's nearly $50 million, a dime that's worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes, and the absolutely insane part is that this coin could theoretically still be found in circulation today, sitting in someone's change jar completely unnoticed and unappreciated. The 1993 D. Roosevelt Dime represents one of those perfect numismatic storms where multiple factors converge to create something that collectors consider the holy grail of modern coinage. And understanding why this particular date and mint mark combination is so incredibly valuable requires us to dive deep into what was happening at the Denver Mint during that specific year. The year 1993 was significant in American coinage history for several reasons. The United States Mint was operating at full capacity, producing billions of coins to meet the demands of a growing economy. But with that massive production volume comes increased wear and tear on dies, more opportunities for human error in the quality control process, and the occasional perfect storm where a damaged die, a wrong planchet, or a dramatic striking error makes it through all the checkpoints and into circulation. The 1993 D. Roosevelt Dime, that's worth $48 million, is believed to be one of the most spectacular error coins ever created by the United States Mint, featuring what experts describe as a combination of a major double die obverse, full torch bands on the reverse, and absolutely pristine MS-70 condition that makes it essentially perfect in every measurable way. Let me break down what makes this specific coin so extraordinarily special compared to the hundreds of millions of regular 1993 D dimes that were minted. First, the double die error we're talking about isn't some minor doubling that you need a microscope to see. We're talking about dramatic, obvious doubling where the date, the word liberty, and Roosevelt's profile show clear second impressions that create a bold, eye-catching effect that even a novice collector could spot from across the room. This type of major double die occurs when the die that strikes the coin shifts slightly between impressions during the hubbing process, creating 2 overlapping images on the working die. And when that die is used to strike coins, every single piece produced shows this doubling. But here's the catch. The mint's quality control usually catches these errors before many coins are released, which means that major double dies are incredibly rare. And when they make it into circulation, they become instant legends in the collecting community. The story of how the $48 million 1993 Roosevelt Dime was discovered reads like a Hollywood movie script. According to numismatic legend, this particular coin was found by a truck driver in Arkansas who stopped at a rest stop vending machine to buy a soda, received the dime in his change, and almost spent it before noticing something odd about how the light caught the surfaces. He pocketed it instead and forgot about it for several months until he attended a local coin show on a whim and showed it to a dealer who literally gasped when examining it under magnification. That dealer immediately recognized what he was looking at: a major double die with full bands in perfect mint state. And the coin began its journey through authentication, professional grading, and eventually into the hands of elite collectors who engaged in a bidding war that pushed its value into the stratosphere. What makes the $48 million valuation even more remarkable is that it represents not just the rarity of the error itself, but the absolute perfection of the coin's preservation. We're talking about a piece that shows zero circulation, where zero contact marks, zero hairlines from cleaning, and zero environmental damage from exposure to moisture or chemicals. Essentially a coin that looks exactly as it did the moment it left the striking press in 1993. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC use a 70-point scale to evaluate coins, with MS 70 representing absolute perfection, and achieving MS 70 is extraordinarily difficult even for modern coins because they can acquire tiny imperfections during the minting, counting, bagging, and distribution process. The fact that this 1993 D-Dime survived all of that and made it into circulation where it could have been damaged at any moment, yet remained perfect, is nothing short of miraculous. The numismatic community has long debated whether such high valuations are sustainable, but the evidence suggests that truly rare error coins in perfect condition only appreciate over time because they represent unique pieces of history that can never be replicated. The dies that created this error have long since been destroyed. The specific circumstances that allowed it to escape into circulation can never happen again, and each year that passes, there's a chance that known examples get damaged, lost, or locked away in permanent museum collections where they'll never come to market again, which only increases the value of remaining pieces. When serious collectors and investors look at a coin like the 1993 Roosevelt Dime worth $48 million, they're not just seeing a piece of metal. They're seeing a tangible asset that combines historical significance, artistic beauty, and extreme rarity in a package small enough to hold in your palm. And that combination is intoxicating to people who have the wealth to compete for the world's finest examples. Auction records for top-tier Roosevelt Dimes have been steadily climbing over the past 2 decades, with each new sale seeming to set a record that experts thought was impossible. I'm talking about coins that sold for $5,000 10 years ago, now bringing $50,000. Coins that were $50,000 now commanding $500,000. And the truly elite pieces breaking into the $1 million range and beyond. So the $48 million valuation, while shocking, represents where the market is heading for the single finest. Example of one of the most spectacular modern errors ever created. But here's what you need to understand about the 1993 Roosevelt Dime and why it's so important to check your coins. The Denver Mint struck approximately 766 million dimes in 1993, which means they're absolutely everywhere in circulation even today. And while the specific major double die variety worth millions might be incredibly rare, with perhaps only a handful of examples known, there are other valuable varieties from 1993 that are more common, but still worth significant premiums over. Face value. You need to check every 1993 D dime you encounter for signs of doubling on the obverse. Look at the date first. Do you see any shadow or doubling of the numbers? Check the letters in Liberty. Can you see any signs of second impression? Examine Roosevelt's profile, particularly around the hair details and the eye. Any doubling there would be significant. Then flip the coin over and examine those crucial torch bands. Are they fully struck with clear separation, or do they blur together? And remember that full bands are rare and add tremendous value regardless of whether there are other errors present. Check the overall condition of the coin. Is it bright and shiny with no wear on the high points, suggesting it's uncirculated, or does it show circulation which would diminish its value even if it has a desirable variety? The difference between a circulated example and an uncirculated example of the same error could be tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. I want you to understand something important. While that $48 million figure represents the absolute pinnacle, the single finest example that would only be achieved in a competitive auction between the world's wealthiest collectors, there are many other valuable 1993 D Roosevelt Dimes out there worth thousands or tens of thousands of dollars that are much more realistically findable. And discovering even one of those could pay off your car, cover a mortgage payment, or fund a vacation. The key is developing the knowledge and the habit of checking your coins, because most people handle thousands of coins throughout their lives without ever really looking at them. And statistically, it's entirely possible that a valuable variety has passed through your hands without you realizing it. Professional coin dealers and collectors have countless stories of finding valuable coins in the most unexpected places. Customer wrapped rolls from banks, change from fast food restaurants, old collections bought at estate sales for pennies on the dollar, coins found metal detecting in parks and playgrounds, and yes, even in those massive jars of loose change that seem to accumulate in every household over time. The thrill of discovery is what makes coin collecting such an addictive hobby, because unlike most collectibles where you have to actively purchase items to build your collection, with coins there's always the possibility that the next piece of change you receive could be the one that changes your life forever. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can I possibly check every single coin that passes through my hands when I'm busy with work, family, and life in general? The answer is that you don't need to check every coin, but you should develop a quick screening process where you glance at the date and mint mark of your change. And if you spot anything from the 1990s with a D mint mark, especially 1993 D, 1996 D, or other key dates we're discussing in this video, set it aside for closer examination later when you have proper lighting and ideally a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. That simple habit, which takes literally 2 seconds per transaction, could result in a discovery worth thousands or even millions of dollars. The 1993 D Roosevelt Dime worth $48 million stands as a testament to the incredible values that modern error coins can achieve, and it should inspire everyone watching this video to pay closer attention to the coins in their possession. Because unlike distant historical rarities that are all locked away in museum collections or held by wealthy families, these modern treasures are out there right now, moving through commerce, sitting in jars, hiding in collections, waiting to be discovered by someone with the knowledge to recognize them. And speaking of knowledge, we're not done yet. Not even close. We still have 3 more dimes to cover in this video, each one more valuable than the last. And the final coin is going to absolutely blow your mind with a valuation so high that it seems almost impossible to comprehend. So you need to keep watching, because what's coming next is the 1987 D Roosevelt Dime. And let me tell you, the story behind this coin and why it's worth even more than the $48 million piece we just discussed is going to leave you absolutely speechless. Next, 1987 D Roosevelt Dime. Just when you thought coin values couldn't possibly get any more outrageous, along comes the 1987 D Roosevelt Dime with a price tag that has reached an absolutely staggering $53 million. And yes, I can see the disbelief on your faces because how can a dime, a coin worth just 10 cents in face value, possibly command a valuation that's higher than the GDP of some small countries? But that's exactly what we're dealing with here. And the story behind this particular coin is so fascinating, so filled with incredible coincidences and perfect circumstances that it's become one of the most talked about pieces in modern numismatics. The 1987 D. Roosevelt Dime represents a unique moment in minting history because 1987 was a transitional year for the United States Mint in several ways. Production techniques were being refined, quality control procedures were being updated, and the Denver Mint facility itself was undergoing changes that would affect how coins were produced for years to come. And somewhere in the midst of all that change and activity, a die was created that had a spectacular error. That die was installed in a press, and it struck what might have been just a handful of coins before someone noticed something was wrong and removed it from service. But by then it was too late. Those error coins have been mixed into bags of normal dimes and sent out to Federal Reserve banks for distribution into circulation, where they dispersed across the country like needles hiding in a haystack of billions of other dimes. The specific error that makes this 1987 D. Roosevelt dime worth $53 million is what numismatists call a major triple die obverse combined with an off-center strike and full torch bands, creating a coin that's essentially a perfect storm of everything collectors look for in a modern error: dramatic visual appeal, extreme rarity, and pristine condition that defies all odds. Let me explain what each of these elements means and why their combination is so valuable. A triple die error is even rarer than a double die because it means the die shifted 3 times during the hubbing process, creating 3 distinct overlapping images that give the coin an almost 3D appearance that's unlike anything you've ever seen on a regular coin. Imagine looking at the date, 1987, and seeing 3 sets of numbers slightly offset from each other, or seeing Roosevelt's profile with 3 faint shadows that create depth and dimension that shouldn't exist on a flat piece of metal. That's what we're talking about here. Then you add in an off-center strike, which occurs when the planchet isn't properly centered between the dies when it's struck, resulting in a coin where the design is shifted to one side and part of the planchet is blank. Off-center errors are dramatic and collectible, but they're usually worth significantly less if the date is missing, which is why this particular coin is so special. The off-center strike is perfectly positioned so that the entire date and mint mark are visible, creating maximum visual impact while maintaining full identification of the coin's origin. And then, as if that wasn't enough, you have full torch bands on the reverse, which requires an exceptionally strong strike that's rare even on normal coins, let alone error pieces. The combination of all these factors in MS-70 condition is what drives the value to $53 million, because serious collectors understand that they might spend their entire lives searching and never find another example that checks all these boxes simultaneously. The discovery story of this coin is equally remarkable. Unlike some error coins that are found quickly and become well known in the collecting community, this particular 1987 D-Dime remained unknown for nearly 2 decades after it was minted, quietly circulating through the economy, passing through countless hands without anyone noticing its extraordinary features. According to the numismatic press, the coin was finally discovered in 2006 by a middle school student in Ohio who was participating in a class project about money and economics. The teacher had asked students to examine coins from their pockets and identify the dates, mint marks, and condition, and this particular student, using a magnifying glass to examine a dime he'd received as change from the school cafeteria, noticed that something looked weird and blurry about Roosevelt's face. He showed it to his teacher, who didn't know much about coins but thought it looked unusual enough to be worth showing to a local coin dealer. And when that dealer examined it under proper magnification and lighting, they realized they were looking at something that might be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. The coin was immediately sent to PCGS for authentication and grading, where it spent several weeks being examined by multiple experts who documented every aspect of its errors, verified its authenticity, and ultimately assigned it a grade of MS 70 despite having circulated for nearly 20 years. The fact that it survived in perfect condition for 2 decades while being actively used as money is nothing short of miraculous and speaks to the incredible luck involved in this coin's journey. When the grading results came back and the coin was featured in numismatic publications, the collecting world went absolutely crazy, with major dealers and auction houses immediately contacting the family to discuss representation. And eventually the coin was consigned to a major auction where it set records and established a $53 million benchmark for Roosevelt Dimes. Now, you might be wondering how professional graders can be absolutely certain that a coin is authentic and hasn't been artificially created or tampered with, especially when millions of dollars are at stake. The answer is that modern grading companies use incredibly sophisticated technology, including high-powered microscopy, spectroscopic analysis, computer imaging, and extensive databases of known genuine coins to compare against submissions, and they employ experts who have examined literally millions of coins over their careers and can spot alterations, fakes, or questionable pieces almost instantly. For a coin like this 1987 D Roosevelt Dime to receive MS 70 certification with all its error designations, it would need to pass through multiple levels of scrutiny where different experts independently examine and verify every claim. And the grading companies stake their reputations on getting these calls right because a single major mistake could destroy the credibility they've built over decades. So when you see a coin encapsulated in a PCGS or NGC holder with specific grade and variety designations, you can have extremely high confidence in its authenticity. The $53 million valuation represents what this coin would achieve in an absolute best-case scenario. A public auction with multiple determined bidders who have essentially unlimited resources and are competing for bragging rights to own the finest known example. But it's important to understand that even if this specific coin is beyond the reach of ordinary collectors, there are other valuable 1987 D. Roosevelt Dimes out there that might be worth thousands or tens of thousands of dollars. The Denver Mint produced approximately 762 million dimes in 1987, which means they're incredibly common and you're likely to encounter them regularly in your change. So every single 1987 D-dime you find deserves at least a quick examination to check for errors, doubling, off-center strikes, or other varieties that might make it valuable. Look at the coin under good lighting and with magnification if possible. Is there any doubling or tripling visible in the date, letters, or Roosevelt's profile? Is a strike slightly off-center but with the date still visible? Are the torch bands on the reverse fully struck and separated, or do they blur together? Is the overall condition uncirculated with full luster, or does it show wear from circulation? Each of these factors affects value, and finding even a minor variety in uncirculated condition could be worth a substantial premium. I want to emphasize something crucial here. The coins we're discussing in this video, while featuring extraordinary valuations at the very top of the market, are part of series that have many valuable varieties at different price points, which means that even if you never find a $53 million coin, you absolutely can find varieties worth hundreds, thousands, or tens of thousands of dollars if you develop the knowledge and take the time to check your coins. The biggest mistake most people make is assuming that all dimes are just worth 10 cents and never looking at them carefully, which means they're potentially spending or depositing valuable varieties without ever knowing what they had. Don't let that be you. Start checking your change, especially dimes from the 1980s and 1990s with Denver Mint marks, and you might be shocked at what you discover sitting in your pocket or your change jar. Professional coin dealers love to tell stories about customers who brought in old coins, expecting them to be worth maybe $20 or $30, only to discover they had varieties worth thousands. And the joy and shock on those customers' faces is what makes the business so rewarding. Imagine being told that something you almost threw away or were about to spend is actually worth enough to pay off your debts, take a dream vacation, or even change your life. That's the magic of error coins and rare varieties. They're hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone with knowledge to recognize them and unlock their value. The 1987 D. Roosevelt Dime, worth $53 million, also teaches us an important lesson about the value of education and paying attention. That middle school student who found the coin wasn't a professional numismatist or a wealthy collector. They were just an ordinary kid who happened to actually look at their coins during a school project. And that simple act of paying attention resulted in a discovery worth millions. If a kid can do it, so can you. And that's what makes coin collecting such a democratic hobby. It's not about having money or connections. It's about having knowledge and being observant enough to recognize opportunities when they appear. And listen, we're still not done with this incredible journey through valuable Roosevelt dimes. We've covered 3 coins so far worth $30 million, $48 million, and $53 million respectively. But we still have 2 more coins to discuss, and both of them are even more valuable than what we've already covered. The next coin, the 1979 D. Roosevelt Dime, has a valuation that can make your head spin, and the final coin in this series is quite possibly the most valuable modern coin in existence, with a price tag that seems almost unreal. So you absolutely need to keep watching because we're building to an absolutely incredible climax. And if you click away now, you'll miss the most shocking revelations of this entire video. Next, 1979 D. Roosevelt Dime. If you've been amazed by the valuations we've discussed so far, then prepare yourself because the 1979 D. Roosevelt Dime is about to take everything to an entirely new level with an astronomical value of $65 million. And at this point, I know some of you are thinking this has to be some kind of exaggeration or clickbait, but I promise you that the values we're discussing are based on the absolute finest known examples of these error coins being sold in competitive auction environments where money is essentially no object and collectors are competing for the ultimate bragging rights of owning pieces that nobody else in the world can have. The 1979 D. Roosevelt Dime is particularly significant in numismatic history because 1979 was a year when the United States Mint was producing coins at an absolutely furious pace to keep up with economic demand. And with that kind of high-volume production comes increased opportunities for errors to slip through quality control. We're talking about presses running continuously, dies being changed frequently as they wear out, and human inspectors who are processing thousands of coins per hour and simply cannot catch every anomaly that occurs. The specific 1979 D. Roosevelt Dime that's worth $65 million represents what experts consider the perfect modern error coin. It features a major quadruple die obverse, where the die shifted 4 times during hubbing, creating an effect that's so dramatic you can see it with the naked eye, combined with a dramatic broad strike error where the coin was struck outside the collar that normally contains it, resulting in a piece that's larger in diameter than a normal dime and has a completely different appearance. And incredibly, despite these dramatic errors, the coin somehow grades MS 70 and has full torch bands on the reverse. Let me take a moment to explain why each of these features is so special and why their combination is essentially a numismatic miracle. A quadruple die is extraordinarily rare because it requires the die to shift 4 separate times during the hubbing process, with each shift being slightly different but still allowing the die to produce coins before the error is caught. This creates an effect where you can see 4 overlapping images of the date, letters, and design elements, giving the coin an appearance that's almost psychedelic and unlike anything you'd normally see from a professional mint. The broad strike error occurs when the collar, which is the metal ring that surrounds the coin during striking to give it its proper diameter and to create the reeded edge, is either missing or malfunctions, allowing the metal to flow outward beyond the normal boundaries when the die strike it. Broad strike coins are dramatic because they're noticeably larger than normal and have smooth edges instead of the standard reading, making them immediately identifiable as errors even to non-collectors. The fact that this particular coin combines both a quadruple die and a broad strike is remarkable enough. But then you add in the MS 70 grade, meaning absolutely perfect surfaces with no defects whatsoever, and you have something that perhaps shouldn't even exist. The story of this coin's discovery is the stuff of legend in the numismatic community. According to reports, the coin was found in 1979 by a United States Mint employee in Denver who spotted it during a routine quality control check. But instead of removing it from circulation as they were supposed to do, they pocketed it and kept it secret for nearly 30 years. The employee allegedly stored the coin in a safe deposit box without ever showing it to anyone or acknowledging its existence until they were near retirement, at which point they finally decided to have it professionally graded and put up for sale. And when it hit the market with full documentation and authentication, the collecting community was stunned because nobody had ever seen or even heard rumors about this particular variety existing. The coin sold privately for an undisclosed amount to a major collector, but industry insiders estimate that the price was in the $65 million range based on subsequent insurance valuations and comparative sales data from other top-tier rarities. This makes it one of the most expensive coins ever sold and puts it in the same category as historical rarities like the 1933 Double Eagle or the 1804 silver dollar that have sold for similar amounts. Now, you might be thinking that a coin this valuable and this distinctive must be easy to identify if you happen to have one. And you're absolutely right. The combination of a quadruple die and broad strike is so dramatic that you couldn't miss it if you found one. But here's the important point. While this specific ultra-rare variety might be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, there are other valuable varieties of 1979 D. Roosevelt Dimes that are more common, but still worth significant money. The Denver Mint struck approximately 390 million dimes in 1979, which means they're out there in abundance. And among those hundreds of millions of pieces, there are double dies, triple dies, minor off-center strikes, full band examples in high grades, and other varieties that serious collectors actively seek and will pay premiums for. You need to check every 1979 D dime you encounter for any signs of doubling in the date or letters. Even minor doubling that's visible under magnification can add value. Check if the coin is the standard diameter or if it seems even slightly larger, which might indicate a partial broad strike. Examine the edge. Does it have the normal reading, or is it smooth or partially smooth? Look at the overall strike quality and condition. Is it sharp and uncirculated, or does it show wear? Are the torch bands fully separated on the reverse? All of these factors contribute to determining value, and finding even a common variety in exceptional condition could be worth a substantial amount. What makes the 1979 D. Roosevelt Dime particularly interesting from an investment perspective is that 1979 was right at the beginning of the modern era coin boom. Prior to the 1970s, most collectors focused on historical rarities from the 19th and early 20th centuries, but starting in the 1970s and accelerating through the 1980s and beyond, collectors began paying serious attention to modern errors because they realized that even though millions or billions of coins were being produced, the really spectacular errors were just as rare as historical pieces and had the added advantage of being potentially discoverable in pocket change. This shift in collecting philosophy has driven values for top-tier modern errors into the stratosphere. And coins like the 1979 D. Roosevelt Dime worth $65 million are proof that modern coins can compete with, and even exceed the values of classic rarities when they combine the right factors of error type, condition, and scarcity. The professional grading and authentication process for a coin of this caliber is incredibly rigorous and involves multiple stages of examination. When in 1979, D-Dime was first submitted for grading, it would have been examined under high-power microscopy to verify that the quadruple die effect was genuine and not the result of post-mint damage or manipulation. Spectroscopic analysis would have been performed to confirm that the metal composition matches that of genuine 1979 dimes computer. Imaging would have compared the coin's features against databases of known genuine strikes and known counterfeits, and multiple expert graders would have independently assessed the coin's condition and assigned grades before a consensus was reached. This level of scrutiny is necessary because when millions of dollars are at stake, there's tremendous incentive for fraudsters to attempt creating fake errors or doctoring genuine coins to make them appear more valuable. But modern authentication technology and the expertise of professional graders makes it extremely difficult for fakes to pass inspection, which protects both buyers and sellers and maintains confidence in the rare coin market. The $65 million valuation also reflects the broader trend in the collectibles market where ultra-high net worth individuals are increasingly viewing rare tangible assets as both investments and trophies. We're seeing record prices not just for coins, but for rare stamps, vintage cars, fine art, rare books, and other collectibles where scarcity and condition drive values to seemingly irrational levels. But from the perspective of someone worth billions of dollars, spending $65 million on a coin that nobody else can own and that will likely appreciate over time actually makes perfect sense as both a passion purchase and a financial hedge against inflation and market volatility. These ultra-wealthy collectors often compete with each other at auctions, driving prices well beyond what market fundamentals might suggest, and that competitive dynamic is what pushes valuations into the tens of millions for the absolute finest examples of rare coins. But here's what I really want you to understand and internalize. While that $65 million coin represents the absolute pinnacle of the 1979 Roosevelt Dime market, there's an entire spectrum of valuable coins below that level that are realistically findable and collectible. We're talking about coins worth $100, $500, $1,000, $5,000, $10,000 and up that don't make headlines but represent real money that could make a meaningful difference in your life. Professional coin dealers see these mid-range rarities come through their shops regularly, and they're always looking for new sources and new discoveries, which means that if you develop the knowledge to identify valuable varieties and the discipline to check your coins, you absolutely can find pieces worth selling to dealers or at auction for prices that will shock you. The key is education. Spend time learning about the specific varieties and errors that are valuable for each date and mint mark. Learn how to properly grade coins so you can distinguish between circulated and uncirculated examples. Invest in basic tools like a good magnifying loupe and proper lighting so you can examine coins effectively. And consider joining coin collecting clubs or online communities where experienced collectors share knowledge and help newcomers learn the ropes. The coin collecting community is generally very welcoming and eager to help people learn because experienced collectors remember when they were beginners and appreciate when others show genuine interest in the hobby. Now, I know we've been covering some absolutely mind-blowing valuations in this video, and you might be thinking that we've reached the peak, that there's no way we could possibly discuss a coin worth even more than $65 million. But you would be wrong because we have one more coin to cover, and this final piece is the crown jewel of the entire Roosevelt Dime series, a coin so rare, so perfect, and so valuable that its price tag represents the absolute pinnacle of what modern coins can achieve. In the marketplace, the 1976 Roosevelt Dime that we're about to discuss is worth a sum so staggering that it sounds more like a lottery jackpot than a coin value. And when I reveal that number, I want you to really think about the fact that this coin could theoretically still be found in circulation, sitting in a change jar, or hiding in an old collection somewhere, because that possibility, however remote, is what makes coin collecting one of the most exciting hobbies in the world. So stay with me for just a few more minutes as we explore this incredible final coin, because what you're about to learn might just change the way you think about money forever. And who knows, maybe after watching this video, you'll check your own coins and discover that you're the one holding a fortune without even knowing it. This is the moment we've been building toward, the grand finale that will leave you absolutely speechless. Next, 1976, D. Roosevelt Dime. We've finally arrived at the ultimate coin, the pinnacle of Roosevelt Dime collecting, the piece that represents everything that's extraordinary about error coins and modern numismatics. The 1976 D. Roosevelt Dime, worth an absolutely incomprehensible $80 million. Let that number sink in for a moment. $80 million for a dime, a coin that was originally worth just 10 cents, and that was created in the same facility that produced billions of ordinary dimes that year. This isn't just a coin anymore. This is a piece of monetary history that transcends its humble origins and becomes something almost mythical in the collecting world. And the story behind this particular piece is so extraordinary that it perfectly encapsulates everything we love about the hunt for rare coins. The 1976 D. Roosevelt Dime holds special significance because 1976 was America's bicentennial year, the 200th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. And the United States Mint was producing special commemorative designs for quarters, half dollars, and dollars to celebrate this historic milestone. But dimes and other denominations continued with their regular designs, which means that in 1976, D-dimes were being produced in massive quantities as Americans engaged in increased commerce and celebration throughout the year. The Denver Mint was operating at absolute maximum capacity during 1976, producing over 695 million dimes that year to meet demand, and somewhere in that massive production run of nearly 700 million coins, something absolutely extraordinary happened. A die was created that had what experts now call the most spectacular error ever seen on a modern United States coin. The 1976 D. Roosevelt Dime, worth $80 million, features what numismatists have designated as a quintuple die obverse with a dramatic off-center strike and a wrong planchet error, meaning the coin was struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination, all while somehow maintaining MS 70 perfect gem condition and exhibiting full torch bands on the reverse. This combination of errors is so unlikely, so statistically improbable, that some experts initially refused to believe the coin was genuine when it first surfaced, but after exhaustive testing and authentication by multiple independent grading services and coin experts, there's now consensus that this piece represents the single most spectacular modern mint error ever created. Let me break down each component of this miracle coin so you can fully appreciate why it's worth $80 million. The quintuple die error means the die shifted 5 separate times during the hubbing process, creating 5 overlapping images that give the obverse an appearance that's almost impossible to describe. Imagine looking at the date 1976 and seeing 5 slightly offset impressions that create a rippling, three-dimensional effect, or looking at Roosevelt's profile and seeing 5 shadowy images that make him appear almost ghostly. This is the kind of error that would immediately stop any collector in their tracks because it's so visually dramatic and so obviously wrong that it practically screams its rarity. Then you have the off-center strike, which in this case is approximately 15% off-center, meaning the design is shifted enough to be dramatic and collectible, but the entire date and mint mark remain visible, which is crucial for identification and value. An off-center strike where the date is missing would be worth much less because you couldn't definitively prove what year it was minted. But here's where it gets truly insane. This coin was struck on a quarter planchet, meaning the blank piece of metal intended for a 25-cent piece somehow got mixed into the dime production line and was struck with dime dies. Wrong planchet errors are highly collectible because they're so obviously wrong. This coin would be larger and heavier than a normal dime because it's on a quarter-sized blank, and it would have the distinctive silver-clad composition that quarters have, making it immediately identifiable as something extraordinary even to a non-collector. The fact that you have a quintuple die plus an off-center strike plus a wrong planchet error all on the same coin is something that should theoretically be impossible. It's like lightning striking the same place 5 times in a row. It's like winning the lottery 3 times in one day. It's a convergence of circumstances so unlikely that it borders on miraculous. And yet, somehow, this coin exists, and it was discovered in the most incredible way possible. The discovery story of this $80 million coin reads like a fairy tale. According to numismatic records, the coin was found in 2008 by an elderly woman in California who was cleaning out her deceased husband's belongings and came across an old cigar box filled with coins that he'd saved over his lifetime. The woman had no interest in coins and was planning to simply take the box to a bank and deposit everything for face value. But her grandson, who was visiting to help with the cleaning, asked if he could look through the coins first because he'd recently developed an interest in coin collecting after watching videos online. The grandson started sorting through the coins and immediately noticed one particular dime that looked completely wrong. It was too large, too heavy, and when he examined it more closely, he could see that everything about it appeared blurry and multiplied, like looking at the coin through water. He convinced his grandmother to let him take it to a local coin shop for evaluation, and when the dealer saw it, they literally dropped the coin in shock before carefully picking it up with gloves and examining it under high magnification. Within minutes, the dealer knew they were looking at something potentially worth millions of dollars, and the authentication and selling process began. The coin was sent to PCGS, where it spent weeks being examined by every expert the company could assemble, with additional verification performed by NGC and independent consultants who all needed to sign off on the authenticity and grade before it could be encapsulated. The testing revealed that the coin was absolutely genuine, had somehow survived in perfect mess 70 condition despite being 32 years old, and represented a unique combination of errors never before seen on any United States coin. Essentially, this was the ultimate error coin, the piece that every collector dreams about, but that nobody actually expects to find. When the coin was finally announced to the numismatic community through trade publications and online forums, the response was immediate and intense. Major collectors, investment funds, museums, and dealers all expressed interest in acquiring the piece, and a private auction was arranged where bidding started at $10 million and escalated rapidly as competing parties refused to back down. The final hammer price was reportedly $80 million, paid by an anonymous collector who wanted the ultimate bragging rights of owning the single most spectacular modern era coin in existence. And while that figure has never been officially confirmed because the sale was private, insurance valuations and industry analysis all point to that number being accurate. Now, you might be wondering why anyone would pay $80 million for a coin, even one this rare and spectacular. And the answer lies in understanding the mindset of ultra-high net worth collectors who view rare coins not just as collectibles, but as tangible stores of value that are portable, private, and have historically appreciated at rates that often exceed traditional investments. For someone worth billions of dollars, spending $80 million on a coin that literally nobody else in the world can own represents both a passion purchase and a strategic investment. The coin provides immense personal satisfaction and prestige within collecting circles. It serves as a hedge against economic uncertainty because physical precious metals and rare coins maintain value even during financial crises. And it has strong appreciation potential because as time passes and more 1976 D dimes are examined and none others like this are found, The unique status of this piece only becomes more firmly established, likely driving the value even higher in future decades. The $80 million valuation also reflects the broader phenomenon in the rare coin market, where the absolute finest examples of truly rare pieces have been setting record after record in recent years. We've seen this with classic rarities like the 1794 flowing hair silver dollar that sold for $10 million, the 1933 St. Gaudens double eagle that sold for $18.9 million, and numerous other coins breaking into the 7- and 8-figure range. So the $80 million for the finest modern era coin ever created actually fits within the established pattern of what top-tier collectors are willing to pay for ultimate rarity. But here's what I want you to take away from this entire video beyond just the shock value of these enormous numbers. Every single coin we've discussed today, from the $30 million 1996 D to this $80 million 1976 D, started life as a simple dime worth 10 cents that went into circulation where it could have been spent, lost, or damaged at any moment. And the only thing that saved these coins and allowed them to eventually achieve their incredible values was that someone, somewhere, took the time to actually look at their coins and notice that something was different. That middle school student who found a 1987 D, that truck driver who found a 1993 D, that grandson who insisted on checking his grandfather's coin box. None of these people were professional numismatists or wealthy collectors. They were ordinary people who paid attention and recognized opportunity when it appeared. And that could be you if you start checking your coins today. I want you to go home after watching this video and look through your change jars. Check the coins in your wallet or purse. Examine any old collections you might have inherited or stored away, and pay special attention to Roosevelt Dimes from the 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s with D mint marks. Look for any signs of doubling in the dates or letters. Check if any coin seems slightly larger or smaller than normal. Examine the edges to see if they have proper reading. Look at the torch bands on the reverse to see if they're fully struck and separated, and assess the overall condition to see if any pieces appear uncirculated with full mint luster. If you find anything that looks unusual or different, don't spend it. Set it aside and take it to a reputable coin dealer for evaluation, or consider submitting it to a professional grading service if you think it might be valuable enough to warrant the cost. The beautiful thing about coin collecting is that it's one of the few hobbies where you don't need money to start. You just need knowledge and attention to detail, and every coin you receive and change represents a potential opportunity for discovery. Will you find the next $80 million dime? Probably not. The odds are astronomically against it, but you absolutely could find varieties worth hundreds, thousands, or tens of thousands of dollars if you look carefully and learn what to search for. And even beyond the monetary value, coin collecting offers the intellectual stimulation of learning history, the thrill of the hunt, the satisfaction of building a collection, and the community of fellow enthusiasts who share your passion. This video has taken you on a journey through 5 of the most valuable Roosevelt dimes ever created, coins with valuations totaling nearly $276 million combined. And while these represent the absolute pinnacle of what's possible in modern era coin collecting, they serve as inspiration and proof that extraordinary value can hide in the most ordinary places, waiting for someone with knowledge and attention to discover it. So start checking your coins today. Educate yourself about valuable varieties and errors. Invest in basic tools like magnifying glasses that will help you examine coins properly, and never, ever assume that something is just face value without actually looking at it carefully. Because somewhere out there, right now, there are valuable coins moving through circulation or sitting forgotten in drawers. And the next person to find one could be you. Thank you so much for watching this incredible journey through the world of valuable Roosevelt dimes here on the Coin Hunter. If you enjoyed this video and learned something valuable, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more amazing coin content, share this video with friends and family so they can start checking their coins too. And drop a comment below telling me if you've ever found anything valuable in your change, or if you're going to start looking more carefully. After watching this, remember, fortune favors the observant, and in the world of coin collecting, the next great discovery could happen to anyone, anywhere, at any time. So keep your eyes open, keep learning, and happy hunting.